You got money, though. Oh, you lied to me. You lied to me.
In this world we know different types of corruption. Previous example shows criminal one. But in the countries, where that is not acceptable, corruption is more hidden and is very difficult to realize if it really exists. One example of that is
Officially, the Republic of Slovenia is a country in Europe, located in Balkan Peninsula. It is bordered by Italy to the west, Austria to the north, Hungary to the northeast, Croatia to the southeast. Slovenia has a population of 2.1 million. Slovenes constitute over 80% of the country's population. Slovene, a South Slavic language, is the official language. Moreover, massive 94% of managers in Slovenia consider bribes as a completely normal practice in business deals.
Small countries dominate the world. They usually have from 1.5 million inhabitants or up to 5 to 10 million inhabitants. The disadvantage of small countries is that the domestic market is often uncompetitive, the industry structure is also less diverse, which leads to exposure to larger world markets and causes cyclical fluctuations in the country. As a rule, crises are more common in such countries. All this leads to higher costs in the country, for example, the purchase of goods and services, as it leads to higher production costs, which the country has to guarantee in such a small market. Usually, such countries are doing export of their services or goods.
Based on research and textbooks, Management of Public Services and Nonprofit Organizations, written by Doctor of Science Primož Pivicin, a PhD active researcher, who is employed at University of Ljubljana, Faculty of Public Administration, explained that this has the greatest impact on labor market, which is diverse and the need for secondary education more common, but specialization in profession for certain science very limited.
The work environment therefore tends to ensure that no excessive advancement is allowed in the workplace where the employee performs professional work. However, nepotism or cronyism and clientelism are appearing more and more frequently in the country. Nepotism means prioritizing kinship ties over talent in employment, while cronyism is a broader concept than nepotism, encompassing situations where unrelated friends are favored. As such, clientelism defines a system of relationships in which acquaintances of influential persons have priority, regardless of quality and ability criteria. The perception of a high level of corruption is also confirmed by the Institute of Macroeconomic Analysis and Development, but it does not delve into corruption about finding work. Their research found that indicators measuring the perception of the legal and regulatory environment, transparency of government policies, and bribery and corruption deteriorating the most. The deterioration was greater in Slovenia than in other EU member states. From 2012 to 2020, Slovenia made no significant progress in the corruption perception ranking. Its ranking even slightly worsened in the last measurement and the gap with the EU average widened. The 2022 Special Eurobarometer on corruption shows that 87% of respondents consider corruption widespread in their country, EU average 68%, and 31% of respondents feel personally affected by corruption in their daily lives, EU average 24%, 51%. As regards businesses, 78% of companies consider that corruption is widespread, EU average 63%, and 34% consider that corruption is a problem when doing business. There is currently no national anti-corruption strategy in place. A resolution on the prevention of corruption in the Republic of Slovenia was adopted in 2004, which has since not been changed. The previous national anti-corruption strategy covered the period 2017 to 2019. Since then, no new strategy has been put in place. A working group, composed of representatives of the Ministry of Public Administration, the Ministry of Justice, the Commission for the Prevention of Corruption and other stakeholders, has been established to prepare a new anti-corruption strategy by March 2023. No concrete timeline regarding its adoption has yet been announced. In Slovenia, the aforementioned actions remain hidden due to inadequate mechanisms for preventing these phenomena. Employment Service of Slovenia have no control over employers who publish a vacancy notice. They also have no authority to ask the reasons why this particular candidate was chosen. According to the Slovenian legislation, Article 25 of the Employment Relationships Act, the deadline for applying for the position stated in the job advertisement must not be shorter than 3 days. Practice shows that jobs in advertisements in which the application deadline is only 3 working days are often already reserved for specific people. However, with deadlines that are not shorter than 8 days or longer than 30 days, employers simply want to satisfy formalities or comply with legal regulations on employment by publishing an advertisement, since they have already found a job candidate and successfully agreed on employment with him.
A person who recognizes such a violation must contact the Labor Inspectorate or the authority that sent him the notification of non-selection. Such a candidate has the right to file a legal appeal, which hypothetically means that the unselected individual could only deal with complaints and invest his own money. However, the violation would never be detected by the competent authorities. Everything also depends on whether the candidate has applied for a job vacancy in the public or private sector. Otherwise, if the candidate has not been selected for the position, the employer must notify in writing within 8 days after the completion of the selection process that the candidate has not been selected for the position. The notification of non-selection is sent by the employer to the permanent address or email, if the candidate has allowed this in the form that he submitted during the application process for the purpose of notification. In this case, the candidate has the option to request the return of all the documentation previously submitted as proof of fulfillment of the required conditions for performing work or to have his personal data completely deleted in accordance with Article 17 of the GDPR regulation. This consequently means that the individual is left to fend for himself, as the state emphasizes greater focus on other forms of corruption, so the mentioned problem remains unresolved. According to the Employment Relationships Act, this is not treated as a violation for which a penalty would be prescribed, but rather a legal loophole that is not properly regulated in the legal regulation. Croatia is another example to Slovenia, whereas lost 10% of its population since joining the EU. Kumrovec Mayor Robert Splat says that many young Croatians immigrated to Ireland, Germany and other EU countries. Migrants started coming in from other Balkan countries, but later left to earn more money elsewhere. For the last 2 years, they have had Asian workers coming from places like Nepal and Bangladesh, which is similar example to Slovenia. If you going to government office for the support and integration of migrants checking, which migrants are applying for visa or residence work permit in Slovenia. Mayor said that full EU integration will not change Croatia much. He is sure that will be more money coming in from Europe, but that will bring more corruption. He said that in this country, there's a glass ceiling for young people who want to work in the public or private sector, but you simply can't get jobs without connections. The best electricians, carpenters, plumbers and bricklayers have all left. Politicians often can't finish their public works projects because there are no skilled workers anymore in Croatia.